and eventually post it to something. Okay, so we're drawing this tree out there. We just had a good look at it. It's not going to be exactly that tree. It's going to be inspired by that tree out there. Do not start it down here on the bottom. Bring it up. So this probably you're going to have a little margin. If you're drawing a picture of a face, do not put the bottom of the chin on the bottom of the page. That's going to look weird, right? You want some kind of non-subject around it. So the dirt around the bottom of the tree is going to, or the dirt or grass or whatever, non-subject, not important. It's framing your stuff. So we're going to start the tree about here. And we know we're going to want, I think our consensus was about 3.5 trunks, right? So if this is the length of my trunk, I'm going to go short here. Here's the length of my trunk. Hopefully you can see that. Can you guys see that? I'm going to do this in Sharpie on here, but you can mark this with your thumbnail. So mark this with your thumbnail. Can you see that mark? I'm going to use this as a unit of measurement. This is as tall as my trunk is. There it is. There's my trunk 1. And we're going to go 2. Use your thumbnail. If I did my thumbnail, you wouldn't see that because you can't see that. But you can use your thumbnail, mark your pencil with your thumbnail. It's an artist's trick. Hopefully that kind of thing makes sense, but it doesn't really show up in here, so I'm using Sharpie. 1, 2, 3, and this doesn't have to be exact. We got about 3.5. This really does get more important when you're drawing people. You want someone's head to be the right size to their body, like we talked about, or their eyes to their face. Sometimes we make them too small or too big. Okay, so that's not very straight, but that's okay because it's a tree. This is my trunk. It branches out here. And we said we're about 3 across. So I'm going to go 1 on each side from the middle plus about 1/2. There we go. Is anyone lost yet? Do you understand what I'm doing? We're working on it? Okay, good. I want to make sure that this shows up nicely, so I'm going to redraw what I've got there in Sharpie. Okay, I know this is really hard to see because of the resolution. So what I've got here is this mark for the bottom of the trunk. Do not do this in Sharpie. Where's my pencil? Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here is a unit of measurement. That's the length of the trunk. These are just little marks you're making. 3.5. That's kind of the top. The width is going to be the sides of the canopy. So I'm doing 1 on each side here, and then about 1/2 to each, because we said it was about 3, which is fine. This is my proportion of the width, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a curve up here, and I'm going to do a little mark down here. This is my trunk, and it starts to V right there, split right there. Don't draw this hard. This is just guidelines. This is proportions. How much canopy to how much trunk. And then you can do some branching out this is a good place to start doing some branching out if you want to do that. I'm going to sketch this lightly in Sharpie so you can see how that kind of would work. And I know I'm being recorded right now, and of course, my best art is not going to be when it's recorded, is it? That would not be fair. So you start branching it out right there, and we've got the foliage, so we're going to have some branches in here. This can all be done in your pencil. You do not need to do it dark, but can you see it? Hopefully you can see. Can you see the Sharpie? Good. So we're going to branch them out. Branches taper gradually, so we're not going to be having wide branches where it would go like, here's my trunk. See how it widens, and then we have them widen out. They don't do that. And where they get wider, they taper. Every branch tapers very, very gradually. It's almost parallel, but it gradually tapers. And I'm just doing light, easy lines in there. And they can cross if you want them to. Okay. I'm going to come back to doing this in graphite here on my actual drawing here. You can see this. Back to the number 2 pencil, which we all should have one of those. Here's the canopy. And they can be different. It does not have to be exactly the same as mine. You need another eraser? Get one from the bin over there. Do your best. Huh? Do you need help? Do you need help? All right. We're just going to give this a moment. You can kind of see where I'm going with it. Good. Okay, don't hurry. This is a good chunk. Only want 1, 2, 3. So this part will be like massive. So you can always get a new piece of paper if you want, or you can erase it. Or you could even just draw it over, leave that and just draw it over the top. That's fine too. Yes. Yep. Trump has been not there. That's the idea. That's a usually good. Huh? Yeah, you could go up a bit. What we're doing is out, so it's actually kind of this umbrella shape. We're going to use this Sharpie again. The tree is taller than us, we know that, quite a bit. It's 25 feet tall, and the canopy starts at somewhere in the halfway there. It's, it was 7 feet to here, so it's going to be, 12, 15 feet is where the canopy kind of starts. It's above you. It's like an umbrella. So it's not a circle, it's a half circle. It's a dome, kind of like a bowl. And this is kind of how the bowl generally shapes. So we want to think about general shapes. This is kind of the general shape of it. Do you understand what I mean? That's like looking up underneath the umbrella. You will see leaves on the back side, back here. And you will see up underneath just a little bit on most trees, especially if they're taller than you. If it's not taller than you, it's like a mushroom, but you're a little shrew or a little rodent, and you can see up underneath a giant mushroom. You do not want to be a shrew. They do not have a good life. A lot of ticks. I caught a shrew once, and it had 12 ticks on it. Yeah. That's a lot of ticks. So this is the kind of concept there with the canopy. Do you all see this? Up underneath. We're going to use that as a and kind of do that, and you can see up underneath it. So it's not just a sphere, it's not just a ball, it is a bowl. And then we can kind of have a curve here and a curve there. How are we doing so far? Good. Now when we look at the clumps of leaves, we have, you can almost think of them like different clouds that are held onto by branches. Clump here, clump there. And I'm going to use this as kind of a structure. So I can have a clump over here, kind of random shaped clumps, clump up here, clump over here. And notice we can have a little one here and there. We're kind of fitting in there. In the back, I'm not going to worry too much about those. Now, the light is coming from this way. Also, don't do this in Sharpie. Light is coming this way, meaning this is the light side. The dark side is going to be over here. So let's shade the side of that tree a little bit. Shade the underside of those branches. And light is coming from the top and the side. So that means that. So we're going to end up having a pretty straight shadow on the ground here eventually. I'm just giving that so you can do those early or late. It doesn't matter. I shouldn't. This is something I really don't like here. This black there. That black line should not be there. That's kind of bad, but that's okay. I'm going to use a W-ish design for my foliage. It is a texture. This is intro to shade and texture. Okay, so pause for a moment. We have a concept going on here where each one of these clumps is shaded kind of like a ball. Now we will do some more shading in detail on this kind of stuff, but each clump is shaded a bit like a ball, and the balls that are shaded get darker over here on the dark side. This is dark. Shade. Shades over here. So lighter clumps over here, darker clumps over here, and each clump gets a little bit of its own shade. With me so far? Okay, so I'm going to start from, it doesn't really matter. You're going to use a writer's grip probably for the top. You do not need to fill in everything. Does not need to be the same texture. Don't do it. Leave space. We're going to use a little bit here, and we're just going to shade lightly for these clumps, and we're going to work them toward. Now see, I want to be able to see through my tree here, so there's background clumps here. That stuff's dark. Background clumps are dark-ish. So I'm thinking about where the light is the whole time and working my way toward the dark side. Just like Luke was when you really think about it. Was he? I don't know. Maybe he wasn't. Anakin definitely was, gradually working his way to the dark side until he became Darth Vader. Who? Yeah, Dark Father. So we've got shade on the bottom side, not the top, and along that kind of the edge. And there again, I'm not recreating that tree out there. I'm just using it as inspiration. Now, you see where that's going. The trick is now, I'm doing it in Sharpie. Let's do it in pencil. So we got the clumps. I'm going to use those clumps sort of as a template here. I'm going to use the side of the pencil to create that shading on the side. This is not great. Here, I don't like this. I'm going to pull out this thing. The table works better. It's a little firmer. If your surface is too squishy, it's really hard to draw very well. The thing I don't like about this surface is the texture underneath, but we'll do what we can. Okay, so shade there. And you can see I'm using an overhand where I get that kind of nice shade we've talked about in the past. And now I'm going to use that tight W sort of loops to create that texture. And I can switch over to doing lines for the branches. It's just W's. I'm making leaves. Don't worry about making individual leaves. You can do that for a few of them, but mostly you just want to throw in some texture. And over here, because it's the light side, I'm going to use a pencil tip to do those. And I'm sorry if this is not showing up very well on the screen here. I'm going to use, that's one reason why I did it in Sharpie. I have an issue here. I want to point this out. Issue. Notice this almost fish-shaped branch. It tapered in the wrong spot. It got wide in the wrong spot. So I'm going to reach off screen here and grab an eraser and clean that up. Branches taper, they don't get wider as they go out. I'm using quite a bit of pressure to create this foliage effect. A lot of pressure on that. And that the desk, the wood below, is giving its own texture, which I don't know if I like, but it's happening. I don't know whether I like it or not. Visually, is this making sense to you? Does it look like a tree? Is it starting to come together as a tree? Hopefully. I'm going to use the writer's grip to write with the tip, to draw some of those leaves with the tip here. Leave space. Space is good in your drawing. Don't fill everything. You do not need to have even texture. The tree doesn't have even texture. Like I said, we'll have some of those leaves come to the back. We will have leaves in the back of the tree because the tree is taller than you. A little texture up here. Gonna draw some branches up to that texture. And I'm going to throw some shade down there on the ground around that tree. You can even draw some shade across that tree a little bit too. That can look kind of cool. Looks like the tree is casting its own shadow on itself. And if you want there to be grass, just put some dark grass where that shadow is coming up. And you could probably put a little bit of a line back in the background if you want. I don't know. Not necessary, but that works. All right, so to do a really quick recap, we will be practicing it. This will be this will be the unit that we're doing right now. Proportions and basic shape is kind of what we're talking about here. So we've got the tree trunk is one trunk, and it has 1, 2, 3.5 trunks here. That's the whole length of it. So the whole total, so it's 1, 2, 3.5. The total is 3.5 trunks. The canopy makes up about, if you're going from here to here, 2.5 tree trunks. It becomes a unit of measurement. You don't need to know how many feet it is. It's irrelevant. You measure it by itself. Proportions have to do with how much. If you've ever looked at a recipe for making food for like an army, like 100 people or something, if you're going to make it for 4, you probably need to divide it a bit. But you want to keep the proportions the same. That's the same kind of thing we're doing here. Really important in drawing. Really, really, really important. So proportions, and then shading, just where it's dark, make it dark. And knowing that the light's coming here, all that stuff's going to be done much more lightly. And then on the dark side, you can bear down a little bit more, thinking about each clump having its own shade and pattern. So that's kind of it. And that's the tree lesson. And we'll, like I said, we'll be digging into this a lot more for this unit. And there we go.